Myself, the principal, and 28 female Thai teachers, right? 4 of whom are nuns, Catholic nuns.
That sounds like the start of a Carry On film or a great movie.
About 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'd hide myself in one of the pubs, yeah?
Yep.
And hopefully avoid all the Thai teachers for that whole evening, you know. And they were very interested in one of the nuns' bags. And he puts the bungee on me and, you know, he says, oh, all you got to do is when you get out on that little platform is just do a big swallow dive. He's got this hook and he just pulls you in like that. And I'm not joking, Jim. When my feet got to the ground on the pot, I'm going like that. And he says to me,
good morning and welcome back to my channel. I'm JB Wanders, aka Jimmy or Jimbo, aka the White Snoop Dogg, aka the sexiest tattooed man in Thailand, aka fat but very lovable. Today we're going to go and have a conversation with a chap called Paul Wallis. Most of you know him quite well, and he's going to tell a few stories for us today. And after that, as a little reward, we'll go and play snooker.
Can't see how you didn't see that one. One to me. Black.
I didn't see that one either.
Yes, keep your eyes open in this game, mate.
okay, a very interesting experience that happened to me when I was a teacher at a very progressive Thai school. The school is called Meen Prasat Witya, and it's in Minbury. And I went to work there because the principal was a very forward-thinking woman. She understood that Thai education had its faults, and she had brought in foreign educators from the US to workshop that 100 Thai teachers that were at this school.
Okay.
And I'd been the translator for all the time when this was happening, you know. So I get told by the principal one day that we're all going to New Zealand. Myself, the principal, and 28 female Thai teachers, right? 4 of whom are nuns, Catholic nuns.
That sounds like the start of a Carry On film or a great movie. Or certainly a great story, mate.
So I'm informed that I'm going along as general guide and translator. And I thought, okay, this will be interesting. Boy, well, that was an understatement. So the plan is we go to Christchurch, we all stay in homestays in this one area, and we meet at this hall, if you like, where the New Zealand educator will workshop these 28 Thais on active learning strategies. And so my job was to translate while this is going on and take care of them.
Thai to English, English to Thai, yeah?
Well, yeah, the educator would be doing it in English, and then after a while she'd pause, and then I would deliver that to the Thai teachers in Thai.
Right.
My Thai was pretty good then, because of that job. So anyway, I get a rude awakening some 3 hours before we're due to land in Christchurch, because one of the Thai teachers comes up to me with 29 passports and 29 boarding passes and hands them to me with a smile. You mean I got to fill all that in? Yep. So of course we do that. And as soon as we land at Christchurch, we have a problem. I was called to the area. I'd already got my baggage and I was waiting. I'd been through the passport control bit, and one of the Thai teachers has come running along. Mr. Paul, we got a problem. So I had to go back in, and what had happened was they had a beagle sniffer dog and a handler, female handler, and it was going along all the luggage that comes around on the belt, you know, the carousel. And they were very interested in one of the nuns' bags. Oh. And what had happened was the nun had gone to reclaim her bag, and this dog, which wasn't on a lead, is yap, 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 and she kicked it. She kicked it and launched it in the air, by which time the handlers come over and there's a big hoo-ha going on. The Thai teacher was from somewhere in Korat, didn't speak a word of English, And I arrived as the dog's handler was getting upset with all this, and you know, so I managed to calm her down, and it turned out that she had some Thai fruit in her bag that wasn't supposed to be there, and the dog had picked up on it, and the dog wasn't hurt. And after some negotiation, the handler said to me, well, if she says sorry to my dog, we'll forget about it. So I then tell the Thai teacher, you have to weigh the dog. I'm not weighing any dog. I said, well, then you'll be here until we leave, and then they'll let you come back with us, you know. You won't see New Zealand. Also, she reluctantly weighed. So anyway, we all get sent off to these homestays, and I'm staying at a guy called Wally's house. Wally was about 80, his wife had passed, so he's living on his own. He's a nice enough guy, and you know, it was amazing for me because we were on this housing estate, and if you looked at it, you would think this is a typical southern England housing estate. Beautiful lawns, trimmed hedges, names of the roads everywhere, and it was just like a mini England, you know, and it was cold too. Boy, was it cold. So I used to get to the workshop place at about half an hour before it began, and I'd be outside smoking, you know, and one of the Thai teachers came along, and she's like, you know, a young girl, and she's come up to me, she says, Mr. Paul, I got this big problem with my family. I said, well, what's that? And she said, well, the man's really strange. So I said, well, what do you mean? She said, well, every morning when we're having breakfast, he looks at me and says, so where are you going to die? And she says, I think about it and I just say I don't know. And he smiles and we carry on. But what, you know, how could I know where I'm going to die? And I looked at her, I said, no, he means today. Oh, right, to die. Yeah, so that was funny.
To die, mate.
Mm. And so we had about 8 or 9 days of these workshops, and it was quite stressful for me, but everybody got on, you know, and it was all okay. And then we got on a coach, and we're heading off down south to Queenstown for a little holiday.
And none of them could speak any English?
None of them could speak any English.
Okay.
So we're on this coach going down to Queenstown, where we're going to stay for 4 or 5 days, have a nice little holiday before we fly back to Thailand, you know. So it's all nice, we're going along, you know, and the coach driver's got a microphone and he's telling the passengers, you know, what we're coming up to. And then we stop at this big stop place, you know, it's on a big road. We stop and it's beautiful. And we sit there and all the Thais are off the bus, you know, and they're going off buying fruit because they're selling local fruit, you know. Well, I'm sitting on this table smoking my cigarette, and the girl who works there comes over and just puts 4 huge bags of fruit on the table and walks away. And I think nothing of it, you know. 5 minutes go by and the driver's come back to me. He says, well, we're off now then. He says, I said, okay. So I get up to leave, and he said, well, what about your stuff? I said, that's not my stuff. He said, yes, it is. He said, as far as they're concerned, the people who work here, when they see a coachload of Asian people get off the bus to buy stuff, and they see a Western guide, then you're the guide, and you get that every time we stop. And I'm like, really? It's for me? He says, yeah. So we get all this stuff, and we get it on the coach, and I'm giving it all to them, you know, to the passengers, and then we go another hour down the road. He says, we're going to stop somewhere else now. He says, and this one's a much better one for you. And we pull over, and he said to me, the deal is you can just go in that shop and pick whatever you want, as long as it's not too ridiculous, you know, not just fruit, other stuff. So that's what happened. I went in there, and they, you know, the owner's like, hello, how are you? You're new to the job. I says, yeah. He said, well, you go around and take what you want, you know. You want some cigarettes? You want this? You want that? And I got about $100 worth of stuff. We get down to Queensland, and that's when the trouble begins. Because none of these people, we're all in the same hotel, and none of these people can speak a word of English. They want me to go in a store and buy them a bottle of water. And I'm like, nope, this is how it, you know, this is how you learn a language.
Yeah.
I said, you know, you just got to go in there and point to it, and, you know, and all that kind of stuff. So then began a routine for the next 5 nights. And the routine was this. about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'd hide myself in one of the pubs, yeah,
Yep.
and hopefully avoid all the Thai teachers for that whole evening, you know. And they'd always find me because they knew I liked a beer, so they knew I'd be in one of the bars, and they just split up. They were smart. They split up, and one time one of them's come in and looked and gone, "He's here, go tell the others." Oh God, yeah, it's a nightmare.
Came to the coffee garden to interview Paul. I realised my mistake on the way to pick him up. I stopped at 7-Eleven to grab a couple of coffees, got out of the car and realised I didn't have my shoes. In Thailand, we don't usually wear shoes when we drive. Well, I don't anyway, I drive bare feet. And normally my flip-flops or whatever are in the car, but they weren't. So here we go. Yep, I've just walked through a garage forecourt, through this garden past Amazon Coffee in my bare feet. Shameless.
And while I was there at Queenstown, I booked to jump the Nevis bungee jump, which is it's this pod suspended over a ravine by these steel cables,
Right.
440 feet. So it was like $80, I think it was, or $90. So I booked up for it, and on the next morning I'm there at 6 o'clock, and this van picks us up, you know, and there's about eight or nine of us going, and we have to go up the mountains. And at this point I hadn't thought about the jump at all. I just thought, you know, it's going to be a fine, you know.
Sure.
And there's one guy on there, and he's talking about how he loves to do this and do that, and you know, he's really talking about what he's going to do when he gets on that platform. And you know what? It turned out he was the only one who didn't jump.
Often the way, mate.
I nearly didn't.
The biggest mouth.
We all got weighed, and they stamp your weight on your wrist.
Okay.
And then you're led into this pod, little pod, and then that gets taken out to the big pod, and you get in the big pod, and they got all these bungees there, you know, and I was one of the last ones because they start with the lightest people first, you
Right.
know. None of the Thai teachers, by the way, would have done this,
Yeah.
but I just figured I'd do it. So it gets to my turn, and he puts the bungee on me, and you know, he says, "Yeah, all you got to do is when you get out on that little platform, is just do a big swallow dive, you know, and you'll get 10 seconds of free fall." And I'm like, great, this is going to be wonderful, you know. And so he hooks me up with everything, and the bungee's all firmly secured, and I waddle out. He opens the door, and I waddle out onto this tiny 1 foot by 1 foot aluminium platform, and I look down. Holy fuck. I mean, we're talking about a long way. I can see this stream at the bottom. So I turned round to him and I said, "I guess it's too late to change my mind, isn't it?" He says, "Well, you've paid for it. You know, you've sat in a van for 2 hours, and you've gone through all the rigmarole, and now you're here." He said, "Yeah, I think it would be a bit late, wouldn't it?" He said, "Just do a good swallow dive." And I did. And I wondered before I jumped, why you never hear anyone making any sound when they go down. And after I jumped, I realised, because all you're doing is inhaling. You're going, "Oh, oh, oh, oh," as you fly down, you know.
How old were you when you did that, roughly?
40,
Yeah.
45.
Amazing experience, though, right?
I wouldn't want to do it again, but yes, it was an amazing
I bet the relief,
experience.
it was a mixture of relief and adrenaline right at the end.
Yeah, the scariest part for me wasn't the actual drop. The drop was exhilarating. But when the bungee kicks in, yeah, and you bounce and you come up, there's a cord you have to pull,
Yeah.
that turns you from being upside down to being upright. Yeah, because you're connected to this bungee by 2 different things.
Right.
So I knew that once I got that first bounce, and so I pulled the thing and it uprighted me and I got hold of it. Well, the most terrifying part was they then winch you up.
Right.
They then winch you up into this pod, yeah. So I'm being winched up, and he's got this hook, and he just pulls you in like that. And I'm not joking, Jim. When my feet got to the ground on the pod, I'm going like that. And he says to me, "It's all right, mate, don't worry about it. That's perfectly normal."
But that's where they invented modern day bungee jump. A guy called AJ Hackett.
That's right,
in New Zealand, yeah.
His brand, this was his brand.
I say modern day because we know, like, whether I forget which
They used to use vines, didn't they?
They did, yeah, leaping off trees. I'm not going to say a
Yes.
country because I might get it horribly wrong. I was
Yeah.
going to say Maoris, but
Yeah.
it could have actually been New Zealanders or Islanders. I'm not sure.
The only kickback I got from that was during the next 3 or 4 weeks, maybe 3 or 4 times it happened. In my dream, I'd just be jumping off and I'd wake up. So I know now, I now know what it feels like to do 10.8 seconds of pure free fall.
Right.
And yeah, it's exhilarating. Boy, you reach a speed real fast.
So that must have been a little bit of respite from the constant... I can only think, if you're responsible for 28 female Thai teachers, a lot of which are from the provinces, right? I can only imagine the number of just mindless questions you are bombarded with 20 hours a day.
Well, by the time we'd arrived in Christchurch, I knew what I was in for because they were hassling me so much on the flight, you know. And it became, I mean, in the evenings when we were at the workshop, pardon me, in Christchurch, it wasn't so much of a problem because in the evenings these female teachers were with a family, you know, and they weren't brave enough to go out. So I didn't have any trouble with them at all while the workshop was going on. But once we moved to Queenstown and we were in the same hotel for 5 days, it was hunt Mr. Paul. And I would be as ingenious as I could to get out of their way. A, because I didn't want the hassle of it, but B, because I knew that they have to do it themselves. You know, you can't cotton wool somebody in an experience like that. They have to go out there and explore.
Can I just, that's a skill in itself, mate, hiding.
Yeah.
I'm quite a good hider when you have to get away from somebody like that.
But as soon as one of them found me, they would all be in that bar within 15 minutes where I was, you know. And none of them drank alcohol. And yeah, it was a funny experience.
Was it Catholic school, I presume?
The four type, yeah, they were Catholic. They were. I should elaborate. 15 of these teachers I worked with. I knew them, but 13 of them I didn't. They were just roped in from other schools who wanted to get some of this active learning methodology, you know.
Okay.
So the 4 nuns, I didn't really know the 4 nuns. One time while walking through Queenstown, I see a bunch of them across the street and I try and make out I don't see them, you know, and they're like, Mr. Paul, Mr. Paul. So I have to go over there, you know. So I cross the road where they're standing at the Pelican crossing. And I get there and one of them says to me, Kamdayingai, how did you do that? And I said, you have to press the button. They'd been standing there for 40 minutes waiting for the light to go green that they could walk without even realizing that they have to press that button.
Bless them.
Yeah, it was a funny experience. Boy, was I glad to get back. And oh yeah, we did I also went on the jet boat. They have this jet propelled boat.
Okay.
Boy, it goes down this rapids river and you get, you know, the driver gets within an inch of sheer rock.
Wow.
And I talked to the driver and he said, you know, we're only allowed to do 500 runs. At the end of 500 runs, we can never do this job again. And I said, why is that then? He said, because you get so good at it, you take risks and you get bored. He said, so we figured out that 500 is the limit. And I managed to get 2 of the Thai teachers and the principal to go on the jet boat with me, and boy, talk about a white knuckle ride.
I can imagine. I've seen it on YouTube, mate, and it's like a PlayStation game, and you're right, they do get within inches to, wow.
Yeah, I enjoyed my time at that school.
Why was it, I mean, you said it was progressive, what do you mean?
Well, okay, to start with, it was a foundation, right? It wasn't a private school, it wasn't a government school, it was a foundation, Chinese-backed foundation. And the principal, she was a very astute woman. She knew how bad the Thai education system was. You know, she knew that, you know, learning by memory is just no good. You know, it doesn't teach you critical thinking. You know, it doesn't teach you to problem solve. So she was in a position where she could actually have the power to totally change the curriculum of the school. And she invested millions and millions of baht in bringing over foreign educators to teach her students.
Okay.
There were 5,000 students in this school. There were 100 Thai teachers. And what used to happen was, in the summer holidays, the Thai teachers wouldn't get a break. Can you imagine that? No holiday whatsoever. They would be workshopping with these foreign educators who would fly over from the US, stay for 6 weeks, live in the school, and it was my job to look after them too. So yeah, it was a pretty... Well, I could say that at that time there wasn't another school in Thailand that was being that bold in terms of introducing a new type of education. And it worked. You know, we produced students right up to year 12. It was a kindergarten to year 12 school, and we produced students who could think outside the box.
So you taught English for many years, right?
I did.
Right, we'll have to talk. We haven't got the battery there, but we'll have to talk about your time in Nakhon Batom and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Place, but
I worked for another very interesting school there. Yeah. You know, I find that when I became an English teacher here, there were two types of English teachers. There were the guys that can't do anything else to make a living, so they have to be a teacher and they don't like it. And so for those guys, it's a nightmare, and it's not very pleasant for the kids either, because the foreigner's attitude is, how do I get through this 50 minutes?
Right.
You know, the other type is the one who thinks, well, if I'm going to do this, you know, let's see how good I can get at it.
Yes.
And I was in that group.
Yeah.
So I used to make all my lessons based on games and fun activities, but of course using the language too. Yeah, and I got a lot out of it. I always got on well with the Thai teachers. I got on well with the kids. And I was at least 23 years an English teacher, and the day I quit was the day the desire to be a teacher left me. Yeah, I was working at Sarasat, and I just decided one day, that's it, it's enough for me, because I didn't have my heart in it anymore, so I quit. But yeah, I very much enjoyed my 25 years or 23 years as an English teacher in Thailand. Yeah.
Would you recommend it? If there's any, say there's anyone watching now, they're 25, 30, 35, 40, even older, and they're looking for a way of life, would you recommend teaching as an avenue for people who...
Sure, why not? You know, the best thing to do would be to come over here, take the TEFL course, take the TEFL course, which is, you know, it's a live-in thing, 2 or 3 weeks. I think they do it in Bangkok and Chiang Mai. Get your TEFL certificate, and then approach an agency, and that agency will put you in a school, a Thai government school, where you've got 50 kids in a class, you've got 25 hours of teaching a week, an hour per class.
Both feet on the floor.